Consumers are clamouring for country of origin labelling so they can work out where their food comes from. So last year I travelled around New Zealand gathering 37,000 signatures in support of a petition for country of origin labelling, and Parliament is deciding whether they'll hear submissions on that petition. But in the meantime, I went to visit Gareth Morgan, who's been to visit food factories in China, and asked him about quality standards there.
Well, Gareth, you've been to a couple of food factories, you've visited them in China. What's your impression?
Well, the Chinese run a different manufacturing model than we do. I mean, the main difference is there's a lot of outsourcing in all their manufacturing. So you might have an assembly unit that brings everything together and does the wrapping of it, but a lot of the componentry of anything they manufacture is outsourced to mum and dad backyards, basically, all over China. And that's why you see people running around with wheelbarrows bringing all the bits and pieces into, to be put together. So that's a very different model to the one that we're used to either in New Zealand, Australia, or anywhere else in the OECD.
So do you think their hygiene, food safety standards are as good as ours?
Not a chance. I mean, that would be the most dangerous assumption I think you could make. You've got to go the other way, I think, when you're talking about food from China, and assume that, it's got crap in it, or dust or whatever, and then put in a set of regs that basically take account of that. So, in other words, the regs will say, no, it hasn't, because we have audited these steps along the way. So it's just a different model to the OECD, and so it needs a different reaction.
Well, our Food Safety Authority says, oh no, all food coming into New Zealand is safe, including any food that comes in from China. Would you accept that?
No, I don't accept it. And my understanding here, anyway, is that the Food Safety Authority, they tend to act on things once they get a complaint. I suppose my concern with food coming in from China is that, suddenly you get half a Tokoroa lying in the streets with their guts and really writhing, and that's a complaint, So in other words, the horse is bolted. Yeah. So I think they've got to take a preemptive rather than a reactive approach, and it'll be beyond their resources. So you know what's going to happen.
So shouldn't we consumers then at least have a right to be able to know where our food comes from and make a choice?
Well, that's where it's put to at the end of the day. It's put back on the consumer, buyer beware. And I think the authorities are a bit guilty of just, smoothing over the cracks on this thing. This is actually quite a big issue for consumers. So unless you can get the assurance, and it's got the appropriate badges, frankly, on food, I wouldn't go near it.
And you would support our campaign then to actually get them to change their minds and introduce country of origin labelling for food?
Well, I mean, as I say, they should have country of origin on it at least. And, the more information for the consumer, the better.
Of course. Yeah.
The consumer's got to be informed, It's a pretty basic principle of economics, really.